begin with a boy after the war years, one of several brothers trying to find the size of the horizon. Harvey Logan, light on the feet, strong with horses, quieter than most. Family that moved when work moved, ranches, line camps, river crossings that teach a young man. Pinch stones argue in which cooperate, to brothers close to him, Lonnie, Johnny. Faces you could pick out across a corral by the way they watched stock before they watched people. Country taught them useful things. How to wrap a rope so it won't betray you, how to doctor a sore shoulder on a gelding without making a speech about it, how to listen to older hands who spoke fewer words than the day seemed to deserve. In Montana, the Logans worked for a family named Curry. Names are tools on the frontier. Sometimes you sharpen your own. Sometimes you borrow one that fits better. Harvey borrowed Curry and wore it like a hat that kept the sun honest. Cow towns, freight roads, winter line camps, he learned stamina. He learned to wait without complaint and to move without fuss when the second arrived that required it. Trouble often begins as proximity. A horse said to be borrowed longer than permission allowed. A quarrel that arrived at speed and left a bruise on a calendar. Harvey's talent for the pistol was not theater. It was economy. He didn't waste rounds. He didn't waste warnings either. A reputation grew in the correct order, first in corrals, then in bunkhouses, then in towns that used other people's names to tell their best stories. He met riders who preferred cleverness to cruelty and schedules to noise. One of them laughed easily and got men to listen without raising his voice. Butch Cassidy. Another watched angles and kept count without bragging. Sundance Kid. Harvey found himself between the two the way a storm sometimes finds itself between mountains, useful, powerful, capable of clearing the air quickly, capable of scaring people who deserved a quieter evening. The borrowed name became a nickname that felt true when said out loud, Kid Curry. Not because he was a child, but because the West likes its adjectives short and its warnings shorter. He did not drink jokes as fast as Butch poured them. He did not converse with silence as comfortably as Sundance did. He brought a different weather, lightning when diplomacy stalled, hole in the wall, plans that prefer precision, and the first headlines, a Red Rock hideout, telegraph poles that forget their job for an hour, payrolls that learn new destinations. Hole in the wall looks like a painting until you need it. Then it becomes a map that favors you. There the circle coalesced Butch to schemes, Sundance to steady, Curry to guarantee outcomes when outcomes thought about resisting. Robberies were rehearsals. Perform at speed, a flag in the night. An engine eased forward and separated like a polite guest. An express messenger persuaded to choose safety over pride. Potter measured more carefully each time because soot on faces makes for awkward anecdotes. They tried not to harm passengers. They apologized to ladies and thanked engineers for professionalism when fear rose in a room. Butch told a small joke. When fear stayed anyway, Curry's stare stamped the ticket for quiet. To one such job the chase that follows as faithfully as Monday followed. Posses with lungs. Horses with opinions. Telegraphers who had learned to practice calm. A sheriff died in pursuit on a wind. Scarred stretch of Wyoming, he had ridden straight and hard. A shot was exchanged in bad country. Men later assigned the moment to Kid Curry because moments like that prefer a name. That already sounds like thunder. It angered lawmen in a way no ledger can cool. It added interest to every reward. Poster, it made a straight road bend. Still the work continued. Wilcox, Tipton. Bridges and grades and the railroad schedule turned into instruments. Curry was the last man you wanted on the wrong end of a misunderstanding. He did not start extra noise. He ended noise. Camp the contrast helped the fire burn evenly. Butch's stories, Sundance's arithmetic, Curry sharpening stone working against the evening like a metronome. He was loyal to men who had earned loyalty. He kept his back for them and expected them to keep theirs for him. Fort Worth suits when muck of sunlight, and a name the Pinkertons pronounced clearly. A photograph in a window, a Nevada bank that will always remember morning. Files thickening on a detective's desk. Fort Worth, 1899. Suits for 5 men who were too amused to be careful. A camera making permanence out of a mood. The plate in a photographer as window taught the Pinkertons what bone structure can do for a case. Wanted notices acquired proper nouns. Trainmen and bank clerks learned to spell Logan and to whisper Kid Curry when doors swung and strangers wore their hats to level. When mucka, clean walls, orderly ledgers, polite morning, money bagged quickly. horses pre-positioned by someone who respected exits. Curry worked the edges the way he preferred, covering, counting, ready to apply speed only when mathematics refused to balance. The heat rose, posters multiplied. Raiders found that certain towns offered fewer chairs suddenly. A posse cornered a friend, shots at. A sighting, a lawman fell. Another two on a different day and a different county. The record does not need our exact tally tonight, only our understanding that Curry's path included endings that runes grieved, and headlines sharpened against. He became the Wild Bunch's storm warning when his name reached the sheriff's office. Men closed drawers carefully and checked window angles, yet he still laughed sometimes, briefly, like a man who remembered a kinder blueprint. He could be considerate to clerks and rough on law within the same week because the blueprint had torn in the middle. The circle began to fray. Some men died, some fled, some looked south where a ship could write a new chapter with a different alphabet. Curry stayed longer on American maps than most of his friends. He seemed tied to this specific weather. Plains wind, mountain shadow, railroad timetables that he could read the way other men read psalms. Rest, escape, and the country hearing his name in cities now. Pair of handcuffs that didn't hold to policemen who did not go home. A later robbery that felt like an echo from a quieter year. Cities have their own acoustics. Footsteps bounce. Doors complain differently. Curry found himself under another name in a city that had never met a cowdown but could describe one from novels. An arrest, quiet, competent, by officers who had learned to approach calm men even more carefully than loud ones. Handcuffs, a hallway, a moment that chose speed. He moved with the precision that had kept him alive. Shots in close quarters, to policemen down. Sirens in a century about to learn that word by heart. He vanished the way a careful man does, prepared unspectacularly. Newspapers found their loudest fonts, detectives added pages. Citizens began to learn that the Wild Bunch was now a memory told by one of its sharpest tools still loose. A train robbery came. Later, mountain country. A jump from a moving car when a posse pressed too close. Tracks that held more blood than a trail should. Curry crawled into cover and considered the math he always considered. Wounds, horses, distance. Likelihood of mercy if captured. The telling split here. One says he ended his own problem to keep others from deciding his last posture for him. Another says he lingered a while longer. Patched himself in some stranger's shed, slipped away when headlines were busy elsewhere. For our slow telling, we acknowledge both and keep the hush appropriate to a life that invited both versions by the way it was lived. Ledger, weather, and the hand off to the next quiet man with a complicated job. What to keep, what to let rest, a name to carry forward. Tom Horn, whose work will rhyme in uncomfortable ways with a century learning corporations and wire fences. Legends tend to flatten people. Kid Curry resists flattening. He could be courteous to bystanders and catastrophic to pursuers. He could ride all day without a complaint and risk everything in a minute if loyalty requested it. He could sit a horse so still that quail resumed their errands and then move so fast the same quail changed their minds about the day. Entirely. He did not sell jokes the way Butch did. He did not sell calm the way Sundance did. He sold certainty that if you started trouble with his outfit, he would finish it. That certainty made him valuable to friends and an argument for better vests to enemies. It also wrote a sentence across his own horizon sooner than it needed to. What do we keep for sleep? Not the tally. Leave that to historians and ledgers. Keep instead the caution that a gift for precision in hard moments requires an equal gift for restraint, or it eats its owner. That loyalty is beautiful and also a loaded word when the group's project is theft. That nicknames are fun until they become your only name in roams that must decide quickly. Some say he died in the mountains with a choice made privately. Others say he walked on in a smaller life that doesn't ask to be watched. Either ending permits the same blessing. Let the wind close the files softly. River of Western lives moves now to a figure who wore stars and contracts and suspicions in the same coat. A scout, a translator, a stock detective, a witness for hire, a defendant. Tom Horn. Wire fences. Cattle wars. Courthouse drama that still embarrasses or satisfies depending on a listener's uncle. We will tell him next 5 parts, chronological enough to be fair, soft enough to sleep, so your audience can feel how the century changed from wired grass to posted, signs and from posses to attorneys.